and that manifests itself in different ways. So how do you know you have lupus? What are some of the signs? There are a lot, but some of the common ones: patients can have a lot of extraordinary fatigue. Uh, the joints start to get swollen and they get painful. Different types of rash to the face, rash to the arms, the back, hair loss. In some of the more extreme forms, you can actually have major organs being damaged. So you can have damage to the kidneys, sometimes to the brain, and sometimes to the heart. Okay, so that's just a general overview. Who gets lupus? Anyone can get lupus, but it is more common in women who are in their reproductive years. All right? Okay, so Dr. Hamilton, you want to go ahead with the first question, or the second rather, since I just took that first one?
Okay, so one person is asking about weight and lupus because they've been trying to lose weight for many years. They've been diagnosed for quite a while, and they sometimes get quite depressed over it. And they have tried multiple diets and exercise, and they can't seem to lose it. So now the first thing that I noticed, there's the word diet. And I actually do not like that word diet because it means that you're telling yourself, well, I'm going to stop eating these foods, but at the same time, I'm actually going to skip meals. And that is a problem in itself, especially when you're thinking about weight loss, because then your body is saying, hey, I need food. I'm not sure when you're going to give me food. So whatever you eat, I'm just going to store it. So in essence, for some persons, you actually gain weight when you go on these diets, and the crash diets are really not good when it comes on to your overall health. Some persons become hypoglycemic. So overall, the dieting is not good. What you really need to do is to consistently exercise over a period of time. Your rheumatologist would probably be checking hormones, so you will know if there's any influence where it comes to elevated levels of cortisol or other hormones like prolactin. That will probably explain why it is more difficult for you to lose weight. So I would say, I mean, with your rheumatologist, look at the hormones. That's one. Don't go on these crash diets. Stay consistent with your exercise pattern based on your age as well. The exercise should vary. And you need a consistent diet, which is a balanced meal of macronutrients, but more specifically for the condition itself, lupus, where you avoid all food allergens altogether in your diet. So that is probably where you need to start, have regular meals and consistently exercise over time and look to see if there's any hormonal influence where that is concerned. All right, do you want me to move on to the next question?
Yes, there's another question here. Is a herbal diet more reliable, and can I expect a herbal diet to curb my very active flare-ups?
Oh, okay. I was going by a list that I have. So, okay. So there's no such thing as a herbal diet. That's the first thing. There's no such thing as a herbal diet.
Okay.
So herbs are medicine, right? And you only take medicine when you're sick, and you take specific medicine, mean that specific herb. So there's no herbal diet. So, but we have different types of diet. As we know, we have the Mediterranean diet, and it doesn't mean that you're starving yourself. Remember, from eating food, it's just that you're eating a group of meals or certain meals that is that has certain nutrients in it.
Okay.
Right? So there's no such thing as a herbal diet. So what you do want is a healthy diet, and the diet that would be best for you based on your condition.
Okay.
So let me see another one here. It says the person is on a green vegetable diet and smoothies and fruits given by her mom, but then she also gets injections, and I think that's the same person with the herbal diet as well. So all of that is good, but make sure that the vegetable diet, you actually need protein in it, right? Healthy protein sources. And if you can go more 60% vegan and so forth in terms of your protein sources, that would be great. And when I say vegan, I'm talking more plant-based, so like your peas, your beans, and so forth. So balance that and don't worry too much about the herbal diet because there's no such thing as a herbal diet. All right. So I don't know if you, Dr. Anderson, wants to answer this. It talks about, do you have any patients who have contracted COVID? any patient with lupus who have contracted COVID? Someone is asking that question, or have had COVID. I guess they want.
Right. We will get to everything to do with COVID and lupus on November the 1st when everyone comes to our symposium on COVID and lupus. All right. So just hold your questions until regarding COVID and lupus till then.
All right. So our next one here is about food allergy, a part of lupus symptoms. So the food allergy will create some of the symptoms, right? So the symptoms you have, as Dr. Anderson explained before, where the immune system attacks itself. So you have a lot of symptoms. But then if you are allergic to gluten, which most of you would be allergic to gluten, then that would also make the symptoms more pronounced or consistent in that sense. So yes, you need to know your food allergies, so if it's gluten or anything else, because it doesn't necessarily mean that you may be allergic to gluten and nothing else. You can also be allergic to dairy, other food types. So you need to know your food allergies, because all of that affects the immune system. So therefore your lupus symptoms will be more recurrent. All right. Someone is asking about the ideal blend of food groups daily. So I think when I see food groups per se, for me it is more, and I took up this real quickly. Hope you can see it's the my plate. All right. So if you know that, so for some persons, when I hear to talk about food groups, it's generally a little bit different. So I'm not sure what this person is talking about, but for me, for food groups, I would be looking at what your plate's supposed to consist of. So if you see this based on the sizes that's there, you want to make sure you have vegetables, your protein, right? And you want your fruits and your grains. But what I will say here, when it comes down to vegetables, this should at least be almost a half of your plate, basically. And then the protein takes up the rest of it, and a little bit of starch, right? And we want complex starch, like your sweet potatoes, not like your Irish potatoes. So you always need complex carb, but you need a lot of fiber, because that will also help with the inflammation that's there. You need a lot of fiber in your diet. So in terms of food groups, make sure you have the macronutrients, so your protein, your fats, your carbs, but complex carbs, and a lot of fiber where your vegetable is concerned, because that will go a long way for the inflammation that's actually occurring.
Dr. Hamilton, I have a question. My own question now. The healthy diet, now, is it a substitution for the medication that you're prescribed for your lupus?
No, it's in conjunction with both conventional herbal medicine, everything. So the diet in itself, we consider that as medication, so to speak, because when you get to a level where it's controlled, you will control it with your diet and lifestyle, right? So you're less dependent on medication. And where it comes to the herbal medicine, you no longer need that either at some point. So really your diet will eventually become that medicine, but you can't decide that, hey, I'm going to just drop all medication and I'm just going to try all these crazy diets and see if it works. No, you need to actually know what specific diet you need to be on, what food groups you don't need to be a part of your diet, or foods that are you're allergic to. And then from there, you'll realize that your symptoms will probably lessen over time. But some persons may struggle with the exercise, some persons will struggle with food, but you can't just decide to just go cold turkey and leave everything and just go food. You want to work with them both. And then as your symptoms decrease over time, you realize that you have less dependence on the medication as well. And
so they complement each other.
Yeah, they complement each other, but the doctor should guide you on that. Just don't go cold turkey.
Thank you.
All right. There's someone here that is asking about garlic, if I'm seeing correctly. Garlic as a part of your diet. Yes, garlic a part of your diet. So I hope you're not thinking about garlic being, okay, so you're going to crush all of these garlic and eat raw garlic. No. So you're going to cook with it in whatever meals you're preparing, because it's antimicrobial. It's very good for you. So cook with your garlic in the different recipes, but don't go off and try to make a medicine in large batches from garlic. Don't do that. So yes, garlic is quite good for you, unless you actually have some discomfort when eating it. But as long as you cook it up in the food, it should be quite fine and healthy for you to always have that in as many meals as it goes well with. Okay, so I'm trying to see another. Is it possible to get an idea of foods, especially proteins, not to eat? So when you ask about foods not to eat, then we want to look at just those that you would probably be having more inflammation as a result, and which is like your dairy, your gluten. So that is specific based on each person. So gluten is probably one on the top list that you want foods that are gluten-free for you. But for everyone else, some persons, there's just a lot more triggers. So you want to be more specific. You can do a food allergy test. I don't know if we have that here in terms of the foundation. If you do that, if you want to specifically know what sensitivities you have to different foods, you can get that test done. To be more specific, if you think that you have a lot of flares from a lot of things and it still doesn't have gluten, you can actually get that done as well. Did I miss any of the questions? Let me go back up.
Dr. Hamilton, how do we know what has gluten and what does not have gluten?
It's actually written on the labels for most foods. So these days, especially because Jamaica, we have so much imported stuff. You tend to see anything that's gluten-free, it's written on it, it's identified gluten-free. So the simplest thing, if you're not sure, you just look for things that say gluten-free and you're sure for that. Anything else, you basically would know the derivatives of it. That's one. So you specifically will see gluten, you see wheat. Different cereals would have a combination of wheat and barley and stuff like that. And oats, unless it's gluten-free oats, then you know gluten is a part of it. So you just have to educate yourself. There is a gluten-free society. If you Google it, they will even give you a list of products that has in gluten that's like hidden that you wouldn't necessarily recognize. And you can use that as a guide. But just the more you have a simpler diet where you probably cook most of the things yourself is a better way of not getting it in.
Okay.
That's probably like the safest way. So don't go with a lot of processed foods and you'll be much safer. Because especially with lupus, you really don't want a lot of processed foods. You're supposed to more, eat more natural as possible.
Right. Someone is asking, should one avoid nightshade vegetables with lupus?
Okay, so then again, they're going into the vegetables and look at. So for some persons, they believe that nightshade vegetables are not good for a lot of different conditions. So this is how I'd look at it. The complex carbs are healthy. That's just how I look at it. Complex carbs.
Okay.
That's for nightshade, complex carbs. So I would stick to complex carbs that are healthier for you altogether, because it will help to balance your blood sugar so you have less inflammation over time, and not necessarily nightshade food. Just to complex versus simple carbs.
Okay.
Because a lot of the foods that are in that whole list too, chances are some of them you're going to cut out that you actually need. That will be helpful for you based on the nutrients.
Right. Could you tell me specifically some of the foods associated with more inflammation, as you put it?
Okay, so we're talking about dairy, like your eggs, your cheese, milk, ripe bananas, ice cream, sugar on a whole, sugary snacks, your baked stuff, breads.
Okay.
So your coconut bread, your raisin bread, any form of baked goods on a whole, yeah, that's going to be a big one when it comes to inflammation. And certain fruits that are high on the glycemic index, especially if you have diabetes or other associated comorbidities, then yes. So those are the main ones.
Okay. All right. Someone is asking, what is your opinion on intermittent fasting? They said they've had great success in cutting out gluten and sugars and have been feeling the best they've felt in years. How do you feel about intermittent fasting?
Yeah, so I do recommend that as a treatment for my patients as well, intermittent fasting. But how the person explained what they cut out for intermittent fasting, that's not intermittent fasting. So first of all, you are not supposed to be eating the foods that trigger it and then decide to go on a fast to get rid of the symptoms, because basically you're basically just putting a band-aid on something. So basically you want to eliminate your triggers in terms of foods, right? So outside of that, it can be stress related why you get another attack or your symptoms come up during that time. That is when you want to use intermittent fasting. So you can't eat the triggers and then as soon as you have your flares, you go intermittent fasting, right? So you take out all your triggers in terms of foods and stuff. But then whilst you're on medication, you have a healthy diet, you're exercising, it could be some stressful situation, you did not get enough sleep, you're having a trigger, then the intermittent fasting comes in.
Okay. All right. Let's see if we're missing any of the questions.
Oh, this person asked about getting an idea of especially protein, not to eat.
Mm-hmm.
So you basically want to stay away from your red meats. So chicken and fish for those who can. Otherwise, it's plant-based proteins. So your peas and your beans basically would be the healthiest form.
Okay. Someone says that they've been having food allergies and getting red blotches on their skin. Is there anything they can take or use topically to get rid of those spots?
Okay, so first what they want to do is probably an elimination diet to kind of help to just get everything out of the system. Um, the blotches itself, you have different creams that you can use. You have arnica cream, that's a homeopathic formula that you can use. You can do, well, the oatmeal is it's not bad to soak in if it won't irritate it because you do have the gluten-free oats. Um,
Right.
yeah, so try to use something mild, or you can buy like jojoba oil, Jojoba, jojoba oil, which helps to add back moisture and that discomfort. You can try that as well.
Okay. And can one eat tomatoes with lupus or oranges?
So far, I've not had anyone who have told me that they have had those two, vegetable or fruits, and they have had any problems. So if you're actually seeing any symptoms from it, then probably you can. So yeah, it's probably individual for you if you actually have some flares. But to the best of my knowledge, no, I've never seen that being a cause of flares.
Okay. All right. I think that we have covered most of the questions, if not all.
Okay.
And we're almost at our 30-minute mark. So if there's nothing else, I'd like to thank you, Dr. Hamilton, for spending this time with us to address some of the questions and our concerns or lifestyle, not diets. If you could just show us the plate again.
Sure.
Remember, this is really
also key.
Okay, so this is really a guide of what our plate should look like when we eat. Mostly vegetables, some a little bit of grain, and protein, chicken or fish.
Right.
Right. Okay. Well, thanks much. And just to remind everyone that's joining us, it's October. This is Lupus Awareness Month. And so we have all sorts of activities planned just to remind everyone about Laps for Lupus, reminding you about Purple Fridays. So trying to raise awareness. So get your purple shirts, your purple jewelry. If you don't have, you can get from the Lupus Foundation office. The number there is 754-8458. And we also have our annual Lupus Virtual Symposium on November the 1st, when we'll be addressing all your concerns with relation to COVID and lupus. So please make sure to be there, come out, support us, tell your family and friends about Lupus Foundation. And of course, go to the website, which you could just Google Lupus Foundation Jamaica, and it will come up. All right, so in Ask the Expert, our next session is going to be next month, and we are going to talk about lupus and the skin. So please save all your questions about lupus and the skin, and we'll try to address those with a skin specialist who will be there at that time. Remember to complete the COVID-19 survey that should have been sent out to all of you. All right? Okay, well, stay safe, eat healthy.